Happy Father's Day! Or should I say, get ready for Father's Day with these awesome movies. I collected the 10 best and 5 absolute worst fathers in movie history so you can find your next great watch. Bet you didn't know some of them. For Father's Day, I'm gonna start off right with Father's Day because for some inexplicable reason, a lot of people missed this movie. I blame this on it coming out in the mid-90s when everyone and their mom was making quirky comedies, but still, thank God for my TiVo Stream 4K recommending it this week, because I hope more people will give it a watch. Father's Day is a cheesy comedy with a pretty whack premise. What if someone showed up years later and told you you had a kid? And what if that someone told 2 guys the same story, asking both of them to find the runaway kid? Robin Williams is a depressed writer and Billy Crystal is a successful lawyer. Both are conned into thinking they're the father of a rebellious kid and sent on a quest to find him. In the process, both of them start, at their own pace, developing their fatherly instincts. If you're looking for a lighthearted classic, look no further than this one. Or, since we're on the topic of Robin Williams, the man with the heart of gold, you could try Mrs. Doubtfire. I can't think of a cheesier, more classic comedy to go with Father's Day. Come for Robin Williams dressed as the nanny, stay for Robin Williams learning a lot of lessons about what it means to have a family and just how much a dad should be there for their kids. Also, even though you might remember just the gags, I'll give you a small spoiler and say, prepare for the heartache. Because Mrs. Doubtfire is also a great cautionary tale about divorce. If tugging at the heartstrings is more of the mood you're going for this Father's Day, buckle up and stream The Pursuit of Happiness. This is one of the best movies Will Smith ever did, basically an hour and a half of gut punches. You follow him trying to become successful and take care of his kid. The world just throwing curveball after curveball, his plans keep falling apart, he ends up homeless, but through it all, he is there for his kid. This is one of the heaviest movies you could watch with your father this holiday, but also I think one of the greatest, since it could open a lot of meaningful dialogue. If you didn't know, The Pursuit of Happiness is actually based on a real story. The businessman Chris Gardner actually went through all of the stuff depicted here, and even more, and eventually came out on top. Another truly hardcore watch is Boys in the Hood. It's hard to overstate the emotional weight and realness it carries about urban America even 30 years after the launch. Boys in the Hood follows around 3 kids growing up in LA, but the real story is about fatherhood, about how important a father figure really is. Furious Styles, played by Lawrence Fishburne, isn't a soft, lovey-dovey dude making pancakes, but he was always there for his kid to help him follow the right path. Oh yeah, and fun fact, the role of Doughboy was written specifically for Ice Cube, but the studio didn't even know he was part of NWA. Considering how hardcore and risky NWA was back then, it's a wonder they kept him in the role, but I'm so glad they did, and that the movie is so faithful to the writer's vision. And speaking of the writer's vision, thank God my TiVo Stream 4K featured Big Fish and reminded me of this great gem. This is my absolute favorite Tim Burton movie, and not just because it has no Johnny Depp wearing a wacky costume. It's because it's based on one of my favorite books, about a man who is spending time with his dying father and tries to let go of his anger about their relationship. He does this by trying to find out just how many of his father's stories and adventures are actually real. Since this is a Tim Burton flick, expect fantasy to meld with reality in pretty quirky ways, but also prepare yourself for a sentimental wild ride. If you're gonna be watching Big Fish with your dad, I guarantee you guys are gonna spend some time going over your issues, and hopefully coming out with a better relationship. But if you want a true classic, have a go at Field of Dreams. For me, this is a unique experience. You get to watch Kevin Costner actually have some charisma and visible emotions on the screen. I don't know, I'm kind of biased. I always thought Kevin Costner was basically a cross between a brick and a stoic brick with a stiff upper lip. But here, man does he shine. I didn't know he had this kind of range. Field of Dreams is so good, it got selected a few years back for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as a culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant movie. I'd also add emotional and awe-inspiring to that list too. In Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner is a regular dude who one day walks into his cornfield and hears a random voice telling him, if you build it, he will come. He then goes crazy trying to figure out what the voice means, and eventually he cuts down his corn to build a baseball field. After a while, in which he's just a regular dude who cut down his farm to make that baseball field, some famous and surprising people show up, forcing Kevin to dive inward and figure out his strained relationship with his estranged father. It's hard to talk about this movie without giving away major plot twists, so I'll just say it's all about the heart, especially the father and son relationship. Field of Dreams has equal parts idealism and disappointment, and has all the makings of the best Father's Day movie out there. Try it and come back and let's talk about it. I do think more people should be examining it. If you're saying badass dads, most people will probably think Liam Neeson in Taken, but I raise you Air Force One. If you want some action, keep Die Hard for those Christmas rewatches and stream Air Force One. It's in the same vein but features some pretty radical commie antagonists led, with style, by Gary Oldman. Forget about Neeson being all threatening on the phone because he's got nothing on Harrison Ford in this movie. What if your dad not only was the president of the US, but also a certified badass with a Medal of Honor? The plot is obviously kind of straightforward, but it's a great Father's Day watch if you just want to relax with your folks like in the old days. And on that note, I'd say Armageddon still holds up. Well, to be honest, it more than holds up. It's still one of the best disaster movies ever. It has big names from Bruce Willis to Ben Affleck and the always fun Owen Wilson. It has the big bada booms and it has huge heart. For me at least, Armageddon is all about that controlling, abusive father who eventually learns he needs to do the right thing, and does it without flinching. And speaking about bad dads who eventually turn out alright, give it up for Adam Sandler in Big Daddy. Big Daddy is all about the slacker type. So much so, you'll spend the first half hour just wanting to smack Sandler over the head. Even though he has a law degree, Sandler is a huge slacker who just coasts on some settlement money from an older accident and makes fun of people. The big turning point comes after he's dumped for being such a slacker, and finds out he's actually a dad, when a 5-year-old kid is dumped at his front door. This is a pretty raunchy comedy, but I added it to the list for 2 reasons. 1, you're gonna have lots to talk about with your own dad, trying to decide who's the worst, Adam Sandler or the 5-year-old kid, and 2, it's actually a pretty great mix of stupid comedy and heartwarming stuff. And with that being said, let's check out those movies with truly horrific dads. Here's my personal top 5, but feel free to add more in the comments. And guess what? Adam Sandler's also on the naughty list. Actually, he's the top of my list when it comes to truly bad dads. You know, the ones that make you turn, look at your family, and thank your lucky stars you have them around instead of these dudes. Adam Sandler's Click, not Big Daddy, is the movie that lands him on the baddie list. In this one, a regular old dude is married to a fantastic woman and has a pretty great family and life. Unfortunately, he's also a workaholic overachiever and overall pretty high-strung. So when a stranger offers him a remote control over his life, he just starts abusing it. The plot is simple. What would you do if you could fast forward through your life? Which parts would you skip? Well, in Click, Adam Sandler skips through everything, just to focus on his career more. All through the movie, you're gonna want to throw the remote at your own TV just to stop Sandler using his. I almost did just that while rewatching Matilda a while ago, but the only thing that stopped me was this cute TiVo button. Since it gathers everything I watch from any streaming app and gives the best recommendations I found in an Android dongle so far, I couldn't really toss the remote at the TV, but I wanted to, because Danny DeVito is just so hateable here. Matilda's mom is also pretty despicable, but DeVito's sleazy character is almost too much to bear. If by chance you didn't see Matilda, add this one to your Father's Day list. This is a fantasy comedy with so much heart, it's perfect for a family gathering. It's about a girl so smart and so brilliant, it turns out she has actual superpowers. Unfortunately, her parents are a pair of small-minded, mean hustlers, and she's sent out to a horrible school led by a monster bully. I won't tell you more, just that Matilda is an instant classic. This movie isn't just one of the greatest sports dramas ever, it also features one of the worst dads ever, played by Denzel Washington. The shtick is this: Denzel killed his wife and got sent off to jail, while his son went on to become the top high school basketball player in the US. The state's governor, wanting to have the kid sign up for his team, releases the dad on parole and sends him to convince his son to join that college. With this premise, you get a horrific look into the history of violence Denzel perpetrated and how it shaped his son. This is a pretty hardcore watch, focusing on domestic violence and the rage some children carry against their fathers, but it's also a great Father's Day watch because it has a fantastic redemption story at its core. Father's Day is a great opportunity to actually talk to your dad, and maybe even address some issues. Doubly so if you've had super demanding parents that always expected excellence from you while not being excellent themselves. It's called The Squid and the Whale and has Jeff Bridges in one of his best roles, a selfish, stingy, and arrogant writer who loves lording his intellect on other people. Simply put, he's a prick. He's a prick of such colossal magnitude, every other prick in the movie pales in comparison, even the cheating wife. Still, the catch in The Squid and the Fish is that it's a great story about divorce, how it changes people, how it changes relationships, and how it could be a vehicle for growth. The way the kids pick a favorite parent and change their behavior to support them is also a pretty fascinating watch. If you loved Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, expect something similar but a lot more in-depth from this one. It's written by the same man, Noah Baumbach. We had the neglectful dad, the felon dad, the utter prick, but it's time for the ultimate on-screen bad dad.
Here's Johnny!
It's an old movie, always showing up on this or that list, but The Shining is still a fantastic watch. if only for the worst dad to ever grace the silver screen. If you've seen the movie, then you probably know the biggest theme. If somehow you didn't yet, you should know that, at its core, I'd say it's mostly about intergenerational trauma, how your father's faults and vices can show up in your personality and you pass them on to your kids and so on. That theme is pretty heavy, but fortunately, it's coached in some regular classic horror stuff. Come to think of it, maybe this is the one movie to skip this Father's Day. Since I'm talking about the worst dads in movies, I had to include Jack Torrance, but I do think it's pretty heavy. Anyway, this is my list of the best and worst dads in movie history. I went through my TiVo Stream 4K recommendations and watch lists to pick them, but I'm sure there's a couple of gems I missed. Got any more to add? Maybe a movie that gave you a revelation, helped you understand your parents more, that sort of thing? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you didn't already. Happy Father's Day. Peace.